The untold story of Cleopatra, power, seduction, and tragedy. She was not only the last queen of ancient Egypt, she was one of the most powerful, intelligent, and controversial women in world history. A cunning strategist, a multilingual scholar, and a monarch who dared to defy the Roman Empire. Cleopatra's story is as captivating as it is tragic. Her life was filled with passion, betrayal, political maneuvering, and heartbreak. This is the extraordinary saga of Cleopatra VII, the woman who fought to preserve a dying kingdom and whose death marked the end of pharaonic Egypt. Cleopatra VII Philopator was born around 69 BCE in the magnificent city of Alexandria, the intellectual heart of the ancient world. She came from the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family descended from Ptolemy I, one of Alexander the Great's most trusted generals. For nearly 300 years, the Ptolemies had ruled Egypt as foreign monarchs, maintaining Greek traditions and culture. But Cleopatra was different. She wasn't just a figurehead, she was deeply invested in her country's identity. Unlike her predecessors, Cleopatra learned to speak Egyptian, along with at least 6 other languages, including Greek, Aramaic, and Latin. She studied philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and surrounded herself with scholars from the famed Library of Alexandria. From a young age, she was being groomed for leadership. Her intelligence, charisma, and fierce determination set her apart in a male-dominated court. When her father, Ptolemy XII, died in 51 BCE, Cleopatra became co-ruler at the age of 18, alongside her 10-year-old brother, Ptolemy XIII. According to Egyptian custom, she was forced to marry him and share the throne. But the relationship quickly soured. Cleopatra was strong-willed, politically astute, and not content to be a ceremonial queen. Rival factions within the court, favoring her younger brother, conspired against her. By 49 BCE, she was driven into exile, fleeing to Syria, while her brother's supporters took control of Alexandria. But Cleopatra wasn't one to surrender. She raised her own army and plotted a return to power. Her chance would come through an unexpected ally, the most powerful Roman alive at the time, Julius Caesar. In one of history's most famous entrances, Cleopatra had herself smuggled into Caesar's quarters inside a rolled-up carpet, a daring and theatrical move. When the carpet was unrolled before the Roman general, Cleopatra appeared, elegant, clever, and bold. Caesar was impressed, not just by her beauty, but by her intelligence, wit, and political insight. He agreed to support her claim to the throne, and together they defeated Ptolemy XIII's forces in a brief civil war. Ptolemy drowned while fleeing the battle, and Cleopatra was restored as Egypt's sole ruler, this time alongside her even younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, whom she also married. Soon after, Cleopatra bore Caesar's child, a son named Ptolemy XV, but more famously known as Caesarion, Little Caesar. Though Caesar never publicly acknowledged him, Cleopatra promoted her son as the legitimate heir. In 46 BCE, Cleopatra traveled to Rome with Caesarion, staying in a lavish villa outside the city. Her presence caused a stir. To the Roman elite, she was both fascinating and scandalous, a foreign queen, arriving not as a guest, but almost like an empress. She styled herself as the living goddess Isis, and some Romans viewed her as dangerously influential. Yet Caesar treated her with honor. A golden statue of Cleopatra was even erected in the temple of Venus Genetrix, sparking outrage among conservatives. But the political tides turned quickly. In 44 BCE, Julius Caesar was assassinated by members of the Senate. Fearing the chaos that followed, Cleopatra returned to Egypt. She had survived a civil war, a palace coup, and now the loss of her Roman protector. But her political journey was far from over. After Caesar's death, Rome plunged into civil war once more. Among the contenders for power was Mark Antony, Caesar's former ally and a rising Roman general. In 41 BCE, Antony summoned Cleopatra to the city of Tarsus to explain her loyalties. What followed was another legendary encounter. Cleopatra sailed up the river in a golden barge, dressed as the goddess Isis, surrounded by dancers, incense, and music. Antony, famously fond of spectacle and charm, was completely enthralled. The two became not just lovers, but political allies. Cleopatra offered him access to Egypt's immense wealth, while Antony gave her military strength. Together, they envisioned a new empire, one that would rival and even replace Rome. They had 3 children, twins named Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene, and a younger son, Ptolemy Philadelphus. Their bond grew stronger as their enemies back in Rome plotted their downfall. By 31 BCE, the Roman world had split in two. On one side stood Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and heir, and on the other, Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Their fleets met at the Battle of Actium, off the western coast of Greece. Octavian's forces were better prepared, and despite Cleopatra's naval support, Antony's fleet fell into disarray. Some accounts say that Cleopatra, sensing defeat, fled the battle with her ships, and Antony followed, abandoning the fight. It was a crushing loss. With their power broken, Antony and Cleopatra retreated to Alexandria. But Octavian was closing in, and their fate was sealed. In 30 BCE, as Octavian's army entered Egypt, the lovers made one last stand. Mark Antony, falsely told that Cleopatra had died, was overwhelmed with grief. He fell on his sword, mortally wounding himself. When Cleopatra learned of his death, she mourned deeply, but remained resolute. Refusing to be paraded through Rome in chains, she prepared for her own end. Legend says she arranged her death with ceremony, dressing in royal robes and lying on a golden couch. She then allowed a venomous asp, hidden in a basket of figs, to bite her. Other theories suggest poison or a hidden dagger, but all agree. Cleopatra took her life on her own terms. She was 39 years old. With her death, Egypt became a Roman province, ending centuries of pharaonic rule and bringing the Ptolemaic dynasty to a close. Cleopatra's story has echoed through history for over 2,000 years. She was vilified by Roman propaganda as a temptress and manipulator, a foreign queen who seduced their heroes and sought to divide the empire. But modern historians see a more complex woman. She was a brilliant political thinker, a cultured intellectual, and a ruthless leader when needed. She preserved Egypt's independence far longer than expected, balancing diplomacy, warfare, and strategic alliances in a world dominated by male emperors. Her life has inspired countless plays, paintings, operas, and films, from Shakespeare to Hollywood epics. She remains a timeless symbol of feminine power, seduction, and defiance against overwhelming odds. If you are captivated by the rise and fall of Cleopatra, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more untold stories from history's greatest figures. Join us again on Human Odyssey Through Time, where history's most haunting mysteries and legendary people are brought back to life.